I'm Tony Perez.
And I'm Andres Lopez.
And this is a Tone Dress
Popez production.
Okay, so our topic is Genghis Khan by Mike Snow. It came out in 2016, and so did the music video. And it is off the album 3 by Mike Snow, a band that's been together since 2007. Two-thirds of the group is also a production group. They're responsible for hits such as Grenade by Bruno Mars and Toxic by Britney Spears. They're kind of brought in by a lot of artists when they want to reinvent their image a little bit and do something that's a little bit more edgy than some of the stuff they've done before. And so that's kind of their mainframe. And we see that with Mike Snow's video and song Genghis Khan. It's a little edgier than some of the previous material. Andres and I found the music video particularly fascinating because it's a spoof on the whole James Bond series, particularly James Bond and his relationship with the villain. It's based on satire, and they use a lot of hyper-masculine allusions, such as, of course, James Bond and then Genghis Khan in the original lyrics, and they do that over a really interesting, disarming falsetto and hip-hop beat. And what they're asking the audience to do with this music video is really question what it means to be masculine and whether or not the concept of masculinity needs to be redefined in our society today. So the song immediately starts with that disarming falsetto, right? Kind of gets stuck in your head as soon as you hear it. And then the melody kicks in, and it sounds like the Snake Charmer melody you heard in all those cartoons growing up. And it's meant to evoke that experience, that hypnotic experience that the Snake Charmer has on the snake, on the listener, and also show that that's the effect that James Bond has on the villain.
So already we can tell that it's a play on the original James Bond film Goldfinger, and it's satirizing that, but still keeping some seriousness with the most famous scene and the iconic scene from the movie where Goldfinger is going to kill James Bond with the use of a laser. Now James Bond here, it's a particularly poignant allusion given that James Bond is considered to be a hyper-masculine man, one that encapsulates desire and confidence and strength, as well as Genghis Khan, the original hyper-masculine man referenced in the song. So here it's clear that the directors are playing on the way that people would look at James Bond and his life and feel like their fantasies were being realized through him. And so a common phrase was that women wanted him and men wanted to be him. Conversely, you have the villain who's scarred, troubled, not able to pursue his desires, outcasted, acting out his frustrations on the desired character. And as we saw earlier, there's the ideal home life, but here again, it's satirized, but and gray, but both of them, there's a moment of seriousness in the way that they react. And when he presses the button release, we see a further play on the satire, but now we see that we start to recognize some of the phallic imagery, and that actually this desire to be released is quite a bit more than originally thought of. That instead, the thing holding them back is internalized homophobia, and it's slowly released through the villain, and then, not on accident, through the left hand first of the Bond character. And when they start dancing together, it starts originally as combat.
So the Genghis Khan metaphor is particularly interesting because the artist Mike Snow does play with that illusion of the kind of quintessential first hyper-masculine character, and instead of making it a trait that's just masculine, it's a trait in all humans, right? The fact that there are some desires we have when we see someone we love with someone else, and we just can't control it, and that's what they're talking about there. So, in essence, what we think of being a hyper-masculine man, or what is a masculine man, is a social construct. It's not something that happens naturally. There's parts that are female and male in all characters.
So here we have our last shift, and this is a shift back to the spurned wife. And we see her in masculine garb, her hair back, clearly with a new strength. And we see this very often where a female character is able to resist or push off the chains of patriarchy or masculinity, and is able to kind of wipe that out and it's instead embrace their own femininity and make that a strength instead of a weakness.
Now, when we consider another music video from the same album, we see that the idea of binaries and kind of playing with kind of masculine behavior is something that the directors of these videos seem to be exploring quite a bit. But as we think about Art Matters in particular, we want to refocus on one part in particular of the video, which includes the cutaways that are meant to kind of surprise the audience and kind of point out the fact that they have certain expectations on what a family should look like by cutting away to, we see two fathers with children enjoying breakfast together, and then two fathers in bedroom, kind of, again, playing with these images that people are usually presented with as far as how men behave, how relationships look. And if we think about this video, where it functions in the time that it came out in 2016, we're reminded of another video, a Campbell Soup commercial that aired during the Super Bowl that we're going to look at right now, which does a similar thing with the audience. Starts with attention toward father and a son, focused on Campbell Soup. Plays with the iconic phrase, "I am your father." Here again, presenting two fathers. And while it's a beautiful commercial, definitely something that most viewers were comfortable with, there was a backlash.
Made for real life.
And so if we think about what was important was that there was a backlash, but the response to that backlash was so strong. You had Campbell Soup directly confronting the bigoted remarks that people were making in response to their commercial. You also had late night talk show hosts in their monologues calling out people that were demonstrating extreme homophobia with their reaction to the commercial. And so if we return to the topic of the music video, I think what the production company and Mike Snow is accomplishing is pushing what we often talk about when we talk about masculinity, when we talk about relationships, and when we talk about how we face homophobia and some of those conflicts within ourselves and within our society. We find this video to be a prime example of how art can do something beautiful and powerful and impact its audience in ways that they don't always expect. And it's a perfect example for us, your production crew, Tone Dress Popez, of how art matters.